What's up, people? I want to talk about Redfall. I made a video and then my wife called me in the middle of the video and I had to stop it, which freaking sucks. She called me, then hung up on me and called me again. That's how it works. Anyways, I want to talk about Redfall because the hatred online is dumb. The criticism online is not dumb. There's things to be critical about the game. A lot of things to be critical about the games. A lot of things I would change. A lot of things that confused me, but I had fun with the game. 6.5 hours in, about half that time playing with Magnum, and the other half playing by myself. It's a fun game for me. Now that's an opinion. Okay, it's a fun game for me by myself. It's a really fun game when you're playing with friends. It's missing matchmaking, which stinks. And I really wish it had it, so people could jump in and out. Maybe you can co-op a little bit easier with other people. That's how a lot of people find friends, through matchmaking. I'm sure I can go on the main club and looking for groups or whatever and find a way to do it that way. But anyways, I found 2 bugs. Neither game breaking, but one annoying. One had the little, character sliding over the ground instead of walking. That happens more often in open world games. Happened to me once, and happened for like 5-10 seconds to Magnum's character, and it was it. So I don't know if it was if it was a latency issue on my part, or his part, and that's what caused it. Like, it wasn't transferring information correctly, and that's what was causing it. He was hosting. He lives in another state on the East Coast. It's none of my business to tell you what state he lives in, obviously. And another issue that I didn't have until I played with him was an aiming issue. So my reticle disappeared probably about an hour and a half into it, which is only slightly annoying. Doesn't really affect me that much because I was playing more of a pinpoint aiming, and Magnum was spray and pray. And so what I do is I pull guys off of him, especially when we had multiple. We were both playing the sniper K with the Raven, which comes in handy because you got like 2 guys like just freaking throwing out the Raven, marking characters. So I thought it was I would aim down the sights, and all my sights were good. So the sight was missing. But the one sight that was messed up was my sniper rifle sight. So I'd aim down the snipe and it'd have the sniper rifle sight, right? It's round. It's basically the whole screen. And it's blackboarded off around the circle for aiming. Instead of that, I still had my scope for my sniper rifle right over the cross mark. That was annoying. I was still able to pretty easily snipe heads, unless I was way far off. Then it was really hard to snipe ahead. But if I was in a fairly close distance, I could easily snipe ahead. It wasn't that big of a deal when I was aiming down, because you bring it up and you bring it down. So the way I aim in most games is I come up overhead and then I lower it down and I hit it right at the crown. And that's all I did. Is I brought it down until the name popped up. As soon as the name popped up, bam. So I didn't have a lot of problems with that. It was only a slight annoyance. Hopefully it gets fixed. I don't know if it was some kind of issue with communications. It wasn't communicating with the host correctly, some kind of communication bug, because I never had that problem single player. Those were only 2 bugs. Now, things that would, if I was grading it, I would have graded it as 75. It's better than average. Cats. It's a better than average game. With some caveats. It's a fun game for me. That's an opinion. It's a really fun game with friends. I don't judge the game based off the development studio, so I'm not looking at the game like, is this an arcane game? Like a lot of, I was some of the people I really like on Twitter. Like, I had to play Prey and some other game. I can't remember what the other game they said they played. To wash the taste of, you're playing another one of Arcane's games, to wash the taste out of your mouth. So you came into this expecting the standard Arcane fare in an open world looter shooter. I judge the game based completely off itself. So things that would take points off. So out of 100 score, the world is empty, way too empty. And it's empty of bad guys. It has plenty of bad guys running around the world. Plenty of bad guys. There's no civilians running around. There's not people trying to survive. So when you find people, they're like locked up, and you rescue them, and you get an achievement that's pretty funny called Catch and Release. There should be factions. So you go in and you save neighborhoods. So there's several neighborhoods. And to give you an idea, to save one neighborhood, you will be in the high 5% right now, as of a few hours ago. 5.12% or something like that. 5.26%, something like that. Of people have beat one neighborhood. One single neighborhood. I don't get it. If you're going to trash a game, and this goes with Forspoken, right? But a lot of people were clowning on Forspoken, the dialogue. A lot of people clowned on it. You can hear the dialogue. The dialogue in this game is pretty good. So playing the game, like in Forspoken, the gameplay looked really fun. Combat looked really good. And I think a lot of people said that the combat was really good. And here, the shooting mechanics are really good. I tweaked some stuff, and it felt okay. Do a little bit of settings changes, and Calibra, his name's in my head. There's a guy on Twitter. He's a big Xbox guy. He's from Germany, but he posted up some settings. Turn your sensitivity to low. I can't remember. So there's one that's like low, medium, high. And you set that to low on your controller settings. And then maybe it's a sensitivity bar. You set that between 3.6 and 3.8. It will change the controls drastically. For me, it was night and day. It was huge deal. I don't have the game on now. I'm waiting for my brother-in-law to possibly show up. That's a whole other story. Maybe I'll do something about that. Say something about that in another shot or another video. But not enough people. There should be neighborhood factions. Like, there should be a faction in every neighborhood. Like, people trying to survive. It's an apocalyptic. People are going to fight each other. There's going to be like random acts of violence. There'll be people looting stores. But like, stores you can go into usually have vampires in them and bad guys in them. And there should be more going on. Just more should be going on. There should be more factions. Neighborhood factions. There should be like neutral, slightly not neutral, like on either side. There should be factions that in each neighborhood. They could have played that way better. Or they could have gone State of Decay, where there's like just random like small groups of people out there just trying to survive. And I haven't seen any of that. There's not anybody running around like trying to collect gear or anything like that. And that's kind of like little ambient things going around that they should have added and they don't have in there. But I think extra factions would have been made a huge deal, even if like they don't make a big deal. Like you can run into and maybe like run into a firefight, because there is firefights between two. I don't want to call them two different factions, but like two sides of the same faction. They fight occasionally, but it would be nice to see like different factions in the game. I don't have any real complaints about the graphics. It's Arcane. It's Arcane Studios, so the graphics are Arcane Studio graphics. I thought maybe somebody was driving up, waiting for my brother-in-law. And so the characters look like Arcane characters with the nose. The nose, you can really tell with the nose. And occasionally the chin. But the world doesn't feel necessarily arcane-y. Like the inside of the buildings feel a little bit more arcane-y than the outside. It almost feels like, and someone said something about it, but it almost feels like another company worked on this. The art-wise. And that then Arcane took over. So someone made that claim online on Twitter. I read that on Twitter. That Arcane may have picked this game up and tried to make something of it. But whatever. I don't know the story. Maybe we'll hear something about it. More info has come out. Graphics are fine. They're not terrible. I don't know. The hatred is just weird. It's weird because everything is arcane. Everything's super arcane-y. The vampires look weird and like just strange. And I think that's where a lot of the hatred's coming from. Because they kind of look they look melted. They look stretched and melted. Which like grades on the human eye a little bit, and it doesn't come through. I think they were trying something art-wise that didn't work out well. I'm not sure. It just doesn't work out well. It doesn't look good. Vampires do not look good. They look weird. And I don't think whoever was doing the graphics for the vampires, I'm sure they did their best job, but they look terrible. But I think it was like whatever stylistic choice that they made, it doesn't, Arcane style and whatever they were trying to do with that style did not mesh well together. What else? Gunplay's good. World needs filling. I'm trying to think of other stuff. The story's told in like clips that are not animated. They're like done in stills. That would be fine. That'd be fine in like a pre-release. That's where you send out a pre-release, right? That's not a final game. That should be like that. It works in certain scenarios, right? So but there needs to be more. Like when you rescue your first base, it does that little still thing, story, which is fine. You rescue the base, that's fine. That works. But hopefully when you start dealing with these bosses or dealing with anything, hopefully there's something more. Because a lot of the story is told in little notes, people's journals, things pinned up on refrigerators or on magnets on a coffee maker. Little things, maybe a letter on a bulletin board. There was a note left on a desk about a customer that got banned for being creepy to two girls. And there's a lot of references about what's happening leading up to the game. Um, so a lot of the how it happened or what occurred before, all that's in notes and stuff like that. There's no cinematics like that. I think they can clean some of that up, at least cinematically. Like when big steps are taken, they should do in game cinematics are fine, right? Because the voice actors are really good. I like that when they start talking or they're communicating, that the fucking action doesn't stop. What's another thing? There's something else. I'm forgetting because I should be asleep right now instead of waiting for my brother-in-law. Um, a lot of people said it wasn't arcane enough. I don't know. I'm 6.5 hours in. I've taken one neighborhood. My opinions may change by the end of the game. I might be like a 70 because it was so empty and it took 15 hours to beat the game, and that was way too empty for that length of game or whatever. But for me, it's 75. Add in factions. Clean up some of the communications because we did have a little bit of a trouble connecting. He had to disconnect and then I reconnect it. That got me back online. So there's some issues, but it's not a horrible game. It's not a 65 or a 62 or 63. Would it play better at 60? Oh, there's another one. 30 frames per second. It still feels good at 30 frames a second. I turned motion blur all the way down, so not all off, but all the way down to low. So, because I hate motion blur, but some people love motion blur. I don't feel bad. It doesn't feel like bad at 30 frames per second. Some games feel absolutely terrible at 30 frames. This does not feel terrible at 30 frames per second. But it will feel really good at 60. So hopefully at 60 they do it. This game would look absolutely phenomenal with ray tracing. Absolutely. It's so important. Like light, like when it comes to day, it brightens up, but it doesn't, I don't feel like it brightens up the way that it should brighten up. I don't think they can get that ambient light correctly between night and day. Because it feels like night and day when it shouldn't feel like night and day because the sun's being mostly blotted out. It should feel like something like a 90% eclipse or an 80% eclipse or something like that. And I don't think it does. It feels a little bit too bright. Maybe my brightness settings are set high. Maybe I should check that out. See if maybe that's the reason why it seems too bright. Anyways, that's my opinion. If you have a different opinion, you probably won't. Because everybody agrees with me. That's why I never get negative comments in my... I don't get any comments. Nobody watches me. Anyways, peace out. And if you watch me, make a comment. Hit the like button. You don't even have to subscribe, but it would be nice.